Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a new chess opening theory video. So in this video we'll talk about the Slav defense again today with a different approach in the Czech variation of the Slav with this particular position that I've already prepared for you. You see black has jumped now with the knight on e4, has now centralized its position around the square, has also a nice attack against the knight on c3. So basically with this whole concept the black is preparing somehow to create a blockade around the square e4, not allowing here white to make further progress with the move e4 himself. So in my opinion, very important line to know in the Slav defense Czech variation. So let's of course start from the beginning. We want to see of course how to reach the position. White plays now the move d4, and also I wanted to point you out, if you are interested more into the Slav defense, also in some other sidelines, please check out our d4 series and also our separate playlist of the Slav defense in order to get a better understanding what's of course going now also in this particular video. So after move d4, black is playing now the move d5. We play the queen's gambit declined Slav defense, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight to c3, the three knights variation of the Slav defense, and now comes d takes c4. Of course, as I mentioned before, we don't want to play maybe e3 immediately because black will simply play b5, will create a solid structure here on this side of the board. You can of course break it, but I think it's defendable. We can also then put more pressure with the move b4, so it's sometimes an unpleasant line here to handle for white. So that's why the best way is to proceed with the move a4, preventing of course the move b5. Black continues with bishop to f5, we play e3, hitting now the pawn on c4, and after move e6 we take out now the pawn. But the issue is that black has a certain compensation for white central control. We have talked about this central controls that you can get in the opening stage. The main advantage that white has here in the beginning is of course this pawn majority in the center. So it means we have now these two pawns against one pawn of blacks in the center of the board, and our basic strategic goal is to push the pawn on e4. The downside is of course that actually black is here pawn majority on the queen side, has now a 3 versus 2 situation here, and with this move d takes c4 followed with a4 by white has also provoked a weakness in the position, a weak square that is sometimes very vulnerable for white, the weak b4 square. So I think for black it's also a decent compensation, because the basic progress with the move e4 is very hard to proceed because black has a great grip around the square. So that's why black proceeds also with bishop to b4, hits of course the knight which is controlling the e4 square. We're playing kingside castling, and now with queen to e2 we're trying of course finally to play the move e4. In our previous video that we have analyzed this line. Queen to a5 was played, but still then I recommended you to play the move e4. So it was our previous video, please check it out if you are bothered maybe by this particular line with the white pieces. So after move queen to e2, here comes now a new method by black. Black immediately hits now the center with the move knight to e4. Simply battles for the square immediately, is not even tolerating any plans by white to play the move e4. If white in any occasions manages somehow to play this e4 move in a good way, in a great progressive way, I guarantee you with the white pieces you have a great game, because then also the dark square bishop is coming out. So far the dark square bishop, it's paralyzed, it's neutralized by its own pawn structure. It's not good, it has a tough time to develop itself. So it's, in my opinion, also a very nice method that black can apply this move knight to e4. So what should you do? The best way here is again simply to proceed with bishop to d3, and there are many things that black can do now. For instance, if knight takes c3 happens, this wouldn't be so good, I think. After b takes c3, for instance, you try bishop takes d3, then after queen to d3 you have to step back with the bishop, and this is a position that I think it's very good for white. White can play e4. Finally, as I said, the bishop gets out, and we have still our powerful central control. So black played this line, this particular line, without any compensation. So black didn't reach anything here, has also a tough time now to develop the knight. B file is open, so we could hit here the weak pawn on b7. So in my opinion, not really the best of variations here for black. I see only winning games and drawish games in this particular games for in white's favor. So no winning games by black. So I think we can agree this is not really the most powerful sideline for black. So let's go back. After move here bishop to d3 and the line knight takes c3, b takes c3. What you could do is of course here bishop takes c3. But this again, in my opinion, is not so dangerous. And again, only winning games by white. Look at this. We play simply rook to b1. We're hitting now here the pawn on b7. Now after a couple more moves, we'll take out also here the pawn on b7. You have to maybe retreat. We get this bishop into the game. Look at this. White finally has a great activity. Again, we're following a beautiful game. Alexander Kalifman against Thomas Valgme, in which I think white destroyed simply black here. Look at this, knight to e5. Very, very progressive play now by white. Basically, every move now by white is a beautiful attacking move. Bishop to c7, queen to e4 was played, queen to e5, and I think this is still messed up. This pawn is weak. We'll double up. Darker problems all over the board. Backward, isolated pawn, pardon me, here in c6. So very not a good continuation anymore for black. So after move bishop to d3 that we play, you see the whole concept with knight takes c3, in my opinion, is not a good continuation here for black. Black has to play here bishop takes c3. But now also what could be risky for white, but still I would say this is perfectly fine for white. Also an interesting line is if you play b takes c3, but we'll play something else in our preparation. But let's see also this line. I think it's very interesting because after knight takes c3, queen to c2, after a couple of trades of pieces, white continues the game without a pawn. White has lost a pawn, but has a great compensation in this diagonal of the dark square bishop. The rook has to step back. Now we get this rook on the b file. I guarantee you could have also progressive play here. If, for instance, queen to a5 happens, then we simply take. If queen to a4 happens, then we simply play knight to g5. The queen is connected to the bishop on a3. Pawn on f7 is weak. You can't, of course, protect it because here the bishop is targeting still the f8 square. So, in my opinion, also a playable line. Here, from bishop to a3, rook to e8, we play rook to b1. Maybe b6 can be black's continuation, but now with rook from f to c1, we're attacking now both files, the b and c file. We're still down the pawn, but I think this is playable because here the knight will hop on e5, queen to e2, queen to f3. The queen could be rerouted. So in my opinion, also a nice continuation for white. So as I said, but the engine gives here equal chances, also playable for black. Black is now on the defensive side, but has also an extra pawn, we have to say it. If black manages to defend his position, black should be, of course, much better in a potential fully endgame stage. So let's go back. So that's why after move bishop to d3 and bishop takes c3, we first pick up now the knight on e4. If, for instance, here bishop to a5 happens, then we play simply bishop to b1. Bishop to b1 is very interesting because after bishop to b1, rook to b1, and bishop to b4, black will love now to somehow prevent the move b4. So now we have a new plan. Although you may say, dude, this is nothing spectacular what you gain here. There are not so many complications. Now the whole concept, the whole idea, the whole progressive plan is to push the pawn on b4, controlling the square c5 and attack the c file with the rook, because black will have a tough time to play b6 and c5 in order to create a healthier structure, because the knight is still undeveloped. If you move it, if you play b6, then of course the c6 pawn is weakness. So now the c file attack is the main progressive plan now for white. So here we continue with bishop to d2. Although we're simplifying the game further, but as I said, our main goal is the move b4 now. We're not relying anymore on this e4 plan that we have talked about many times in the Slav defense from white's perspective. Now queen to a5 could happen. Look at this. We play queen to c2, and now a very important maneuver by the knight. We first threatening checkmate on h7. Knight to f6, we play rook from f to c1. So you see, we're continuing with our plan. Black will probably continue with rook from f to c8. We'll try somehow to play b6, c5, but we're not allowing that. We'll play knight to f3. Look at this, knight to e1, and now knight to d3. mission accomplished. After queen to d6, b4, and I guarantee you this should be much better now position here for white. c5 weak, we can push also b5 in some lines, targeting here the rook on c7. So although this is a tough still endgame stage, but sometimes in chess, you know, you cannot just, I don't know, have everything prepared and win games in 15, 20 moves. Here I think we have a decent position, controlling the c5 square, b4 is advanced. That was our plan, and I think this is perfectly fine. So let's go back. Here, after move bishop to d3, as we said, bishop takes c3, bishop to e4. Now after bishop to e4, instead of bishop to a5 retreating here, if bishop to e4 happens, now we pick up simply the piece. But even in this scenario, although it seems this should be maybe a drawish position because we have now opposite color bishops on the board, I still like now finally white's position, because we have now even a more powerful center. We have now really a majority in the center of the board. Let's evaluate here 3 versus 2. Concepts are to play c4, e4 also, and of course after something like c5 we can always play the move bishop to a3. There are many drawish games in this particular line that I see in the database, but I think this is playable. For instance, something like b6, rook from after d1, we simply attack. Now we attack the bishop, and now also we can make progress with h4. Look at this, h5 takes, and now here I think we can always play something like e4, have a nice, again, center here. The bishop is very powerful. Rook to d3, rook to g3, rook to h3, queen to h5, and similar ideas are coming to my mind. So in my opinion, a solid game. So as I said, this was our analysis after a potential here early knight to e4 move. Let's repeat it. So after this move queen to e2, in which we are preparing the move e4, black battles immediately with knight to e4. My recommendation is to play bishop to d3, putting more pressure against the knight. Bishop to c3, we first pick up the knight. That's now I think the best way here to proceed for white. And after bishop to e4, b takes c3. This I think perfectly fine. For instance, even if black develops with knight to d7, we simply attack the bishop retreats, bishop to a3, and again knight to c4, for instance, e4 is possible. Look at this, you play something like this, knight to d6 is coming, knight takes b7. So always our I think the main plans are here: e4, c4 for white, kicking away the bishop, and then knight to c4, and also knight to d6, because this bishop is simply too powerful on this diagonal. I see, for instance, one beautiful game in the database in which white won the game against black. So as I said, after move in the beginning, here knight to e4, we say bishop to d3, bishop takes c3, bishop to e4, and b takes c3. I think it's perfectly fine here for white. So okay, I'm not saying this is really one of the most spectacular lines that we have studied, but sometimes chess is played like this. Sometimes you have to struggle, you have to really find some kind of an idea to make any progress in chess, because black is also playing his game. I'm not saying also this is completely busted for black. Black can still proceed here, but I think it's an interesting line, and you probably face it many times probably in your d4 opening theory. So in my opinion, also very important here to know. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed the study. If you want to see more about the Slav defense and also about the d4 theory, check out our Queen's Gambit Decline series. Here's the link of our playlist. You can have, I think, a great preparation in d4 opening. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.